Hi, I'm James from James Does Things, and in today's video we're going to be creating an eBay auction listing. This eBay tutorial is part of a series of tutorials I'm doing on all things eBay, so please do check out my other videos and maybe even subscribe to the channel while you're there. Okay, on with this video. So we're going to do an eBay auction. My next video is going to be about an eBay buy it now listing, which is different. So for this one we're going to keep it simple, nice and easy. We're going to set up an auction listing. Okay, so to create an eBay auction listing, you're going to need to come up to My eBay and then come down to Selling. And it should, either way, it should bring you to this screen here. Don't worry if yours looks a little bit different to mine. I've got a business account, but essentially you should see something similar to this, and you come over here and do Create Listing. One thing I will say before we go any further is if you've never sold anything on eBay before, you might need to come into your account, which is just up here above the eBay logo, and add your bank details, because once upon a time eBay would let you just sell things via a PayPal account without really putting very much information in, and it led to a lot of fraud. So now they've changed it and you have to have a bank account registered in the country where you live and that kind of thing. So I won't dwell too much on that. So and again, we're going to come over here to Listings, Create Listing, and then just click on it. Now, when you start to type in here, this is where you're going to type in, essentially it's like your title, but eBay is going to try and guess what you're selling. So if you're selling something, say if you're selling something unique or handmade, then just describe it as best you can, and then click the go icon. If it's something really like a specific mass marketed product, like say an iPhone or or a TV or something like that, then there's a good chance that eBay will actually have it in their library of stuff, and it will populate a lot of the details for you, which can be really handy. I've done a different video about selling iPhones, so I won't go into that, but depending on what you type in here will actually depend on what you see on the next screen. So in this, I'm actually going to be selling an Xbox controller, so I'm going to type that in. So I'm going to pick that. Now eBay is going to try and guess which one it is. So if you have whatever it is that you're selling, if it's Nike trainers or a piece of furniture, anything, if you can see, what the hell is that? Oh my god. If you can see the exact match, and I do mean exact, in here, because then by all means click on one of these. So if I just, let's say if I click on that, what you'll find, I'm going to click new, and what you'll find is it'll actually populate a lot of the details inside. So if I come down here, it's going to fill in all these bits, which are really handy for being found in search. So I'm just going to go back. Now in my case, I don't have an exact match for my product. My product isn't an official Microsoft controller. It's actually a sort of a third-party aftermarket copy. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to click Continue Without Match. I would say a lot of things that I sell come under this category, and I suspect if this is the first time selling on eBay, you might want to click on that. Like I said, if you don't find an exact match, don't just click on any of them, because what could then happen is when you sell your item, the person buying it could end up being disappointed if it's not what they thought it was, and you could end up getting into trouble with eBay. So my item is actually, in fact, it's technically for parts not working. Choose a condition. Be honest. If it's new, fair enough, but I would only put new items when they're still wrapped up. People who say, oh, it's new, and you've actually used it once, like that tends to really upset people. If they get a thing and it's clearly been used, even if it's only been used once, if the seals are broken and things like that, that tends to be a big source of arguments on eBay, put it that way. You'll find you might get away with it a few times, but eventually if you keep doing things like that, you'll find that you get negative feedback, and you also get a higher rate of returns and things like that. So it pays to be honest. So here we are. This is an auction listing. It's at the moment it's the same whether you do an auction or a buy it now listing. It's the same, so we'll go through the same process. So the first thing we're going to do is add photos. Okay, so in the previous video I gave you some tips on how to take good photographs for eBay. So what we're going to do now, where it says add photos, you've got two options. You can either you can click on here and it will open up a folder on your computer, or you can just find the folder where the photos are, like this, and then select a few. So I usually hold one down because I don't want to use these two photos because they're not very good. So I'm going to left click on that one. I'm going to hold shift and click on the last one that I want. And then I'm just going to drag these down into here, and that's going to fill that up. Okay, so what we're going to do first is tidy these photos up a little bit. You don't have to do this, but I would do it for at least the first photograph, because this is the photograph that gets seen by everyone on eBay. So I'm going to just tweak the brightness a bit. What I usually do is tweak the brightness and the contrast a bit, and I crop them, and that's it. I don't tend to mess around, and I'll rotate them if they need rotating. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do it for the first one because that's the one that gets seen by everyone when it's before people click on it. So everyone can see that photo if it shows up in search. So it's always worth making that first photo the best that it can be. If you've not taken your photographs yet, don't worry. What you can do is you can if you click on the scroll bar, zoom all the way down to the bottom, and then you can click save for later, and that will save a draft. So if at any point you get stuck, or you think, oh, I haven't done that, I need to go off and do something, then you can. Okay, so now we've done the photos, we're going to come down to the description. The description is what helps you get found by search. So when people come to eBay and they start typing things in and searching for items, what you put in this box will determine how fast your item is found by other people. It'll help determine how high up in people's searches it comes, whether it comes top of the list or on the 5th page. So it's really important, and it's also what I tend to do is use the first sort of, I say most of the listing for search-based stuff. So putting in keywords that people are going to search for, people who want to buy my thing. And then the last word or two, I tend to put something that's going to make it look different to other people's listings. Just something, a little hook, a little grab. So in my case, it's an Xbox One controller. It's a wireless controller. I've also put the word joypad and gamepad in because they're the other words that people in the UK at least use for this particular item. I've put the colour in, but then I've put RRP £60. I'm going to be putting this on auction probably for 99p. So if it was new, that's what it would cost, probably more than that. Because this item's actually damaged, I've put as well that it's got stick drift. Because what you don't want to do, if you have got a damaged item or something like that, it's good to put something in the title, which might sound counterintuitive, but some people search for broken things, particularly broken electronics like phones and computer peripherals, to repair them. So there is actually a big demand for broken stuff. The second reason is, if someone buys this and they don't pay attention, they don't read the listing properly, and they get it and then they go, oh, it's got stick drift, it's broken, this thing, then if you've put it in the title, they've got literally, I mean, they can still complain, but if it ever goes to kind of if it ever gets like raised to eBay as a proper complaint, you can say, look, I put it in the title, you know, how stupid are they? It's always good to put stuff in the title. Alternatively, if there's nothing wrong with your item, put something good here. It's always good to put a price, particularly if you know, like an RRP or an MSRP or whatever, whatever the kind of the retail price should be, because it's kind of saying, you're kind of telling people, you're inferring that they're getting a bargain. So for this, because I'm going to start it at 99p, it's like, oh, I'm getting something I could sell for maybe 60 quid, or at least 40 if it's second hand but repaired. So kind of you're appealing to people who, you know, you're showing them the value, because a lot of people come to eBay for value, you know, because it's cheap or unusual, or, you know, things they can't buy anywhere else. Yeah, so put something good. So for instance, I sell a lot of Pokemon cards, so usually the last word on a lot of my Pokemon cards is I put about how good a condition the item's in. So that's a classic one for you can use it for just about anything. Put excellent condition, really good condition, just something, because other people's might even be in better condition than yours. But if you put, you know, they might not say that to anyone, they might just put, oh, it's an iPhone, you know, iPhone 12, blah blah blah. And if you put iPhone 12 amazing condition, just makes yours a little bit more appealing. You're more likely to get the click ahead of someone else. So that's it for the title. Next we're going to come on to the condition. Okay, one thing before we go into the specifics is the category. Now this is important because you're allowed to select up to 2 categories, but I wouldn't recommend it because if you select 2 categories you get double the fees, and picking the right category can have quite an impact. So in this, often eBay will have a stab at getting the right category for you. It's important to try and get it right. So for me, video games, consoles, accessories, controllers, yes, that's right. It's sometimes putting them in a more general one can be good. For instance, the thing is, for this I wouldn't put it in anything else because that is exactly spot on. Other items can be a bit more vague. So for instance, I used to sell a lot of coins. So you might come down to coins. Now say if I was selling like a silver coin, let's call it like say a Victorian silver crown coin, I could put that in bullion because it's not really bullion, but it is made of solid silver. Or I could put it in coins, and then even when you get into coins you could say, well, you put it in British, but you can put things in collections and bulk lots. So there's often, it's whatever you're selling, there's potential sometimes to put it in more than one listing, more than one category. Sorry. So I would just pick one category. Don't get sort of hoodwinked into thinking, oh, I'll put it in 2. That'd be great, because you'll just get charged double the fees. So yeah, put it in one category, and then this shop category is just for if you've got a business account and you've got a shop subscription. So in my case, well, we're not going to go into that because it's above and beyond really. Okay, item specifics. If eBay knew what you were selling and you managed to find an item earlier, a lot of this will be populated for you. If it isn't, don't worry. This just helps with search and things like that. So if the more information you can put in here, the better. The item specifics change depending on what you're selling. So in my case, there's like 10 lines or something here, and then you can click more, and there's millions more of them. Honestly, it depends what you're selling, whether you really need to bother with these. The more you put, the better. For instance, when they become really important, it's for things like clothing. Okay, this is why you need to fill in the item specifics, or why it can be very handy too. When you've got your item specifics here, what they translate into is the filters down the left when people are searching. So I've done a search here, Nike Air size 10. Now, if I come down here, I can click on size 10 and it will get rid of everything that's not a size 10 from the listings. Now, if you didn't put in your item specifics somewhere that it was a size 10, then I won't see your listing when I'm searching. And same here, I'm going to put white. You see on I know this doesn't have a size, but it does have a colour. So for instance, if someone just really wants a white controller for their Xbox, you know, they want it to match, then they'll see mine now. You know, if I come in here and put white, now they'll see it. So Xbox One, I think you can use it for 360, but I'm not going to click that. I'm going to put China, things like that. So I'm going to so that's why it's important to fill these in. It's not to say you won't sell it if you don't, but it can really help. Okay, so the condition. In my case, this item doesn't actually work properly. It can be used and it's definitely fixable. So for this, you just want to be you want to manage people's expectations. So if anything, you want them to be pleasantly surprised when they open the box. I always put the good stuff first. That's the other thing. Put the good stuff first. Often people don't even read this at all. Other times, like it will leave you when you look on an eBay listing. So if we go in here and click, what you tend to get is like a little snippet for the condition. So if we come down here somewhere, it should say, oh, used. Okay, so this is the kind of the pre-populated automatic one. Used, an item that has previously been worn, yada, yada, yada. So sometimes eBay will populate it for you, especially if you fill this in on your phone or you use the simpler format, then it will actually populate it for you. But if you see here, it only gives you that many characters. It's, you know, maybe it's 100 characters or something, or less, 50 characters. So that's another reason why when I'm filling this in, you put the good stuff at the start, because if you put, oh my god, it's terrible, at the front, people see that even if they're not looking for it. Okay, next it's the description. For the description, this is where you sort of sell the item to the person. You don't need to go mad with this, but the more you put in, the better. eBay, when people search for items, eBay does actually have a little look in here as well. So putting more information in here can really help, which is why I always pretty much either take the whole title or most of it and I paste it in at the top. So that's the first thing I would do. Now I'm going to populate the rest of this, and I'll show you I always use a very similar format whenever I list anything. So I'll pause recording now and I'll come back in a second. Okay, so for the description, the other thing I've typed in here, the other thing I usually do with my descriptions is come over here to show all options, and it'll say, do you really want to show all the options? So I always click see more options, and I like to bold up my title and make it a bit bigger. It just stands out, just looks a bit better, and it'll also make you look more sort of conscientious and professional than other sellers. So title goes at the top, and then underneath that I usually put a quick mention about the condition, just another bit about just emphasising the fact this thing needs a repair, and then so again just bringing people's attention to it, so no one can say, oh, I didn't know it was broken. And then underneath that, just a quick description of what it is, just to make sure people know. If you're selling a bundle of stuff, then it's often good to list it out here. Or if you're selling something that's got lots of parts to it, for instance, like when you sell a phone, under here I'd put like, oh, you're getting this phone, and then it's at this many gigabytes, blah blah blah, and then underneath it, original box, and then underneath that, headphones, charging cable, all that kind of stuff. So here I would just list out what you're getting. In this case, it's a controller. That's it. And then underneath that, just a little bit about it. So excellent cosmetic condition, but has stick drift. Should be easy to fix for someone with skills. So I'm just describing it, kind of repeating what's up here, because often people won't look at all at the condition. And then under that, I always put something like the postage. It's a good idea to find out what you're gonna post, or what your postage options are, before you write the listing. I think part 2 of this tutorial series was about that, so be sure to check that video out. I always add the postage on, so I just say it's Royal Mail second class. For instance, for auctions, I tend to use the cheapest postage possible, and then you can always add on faster options. And then returns, because I'm a business seller, I have to accept returns, and I always tell people returns are accepted, even if you don't want to accept. If you're not going to accept returns, I would put no returns under it. For stuff like this, for electronic stuff, I'd be tempted to say that you accept returns, because it just gives people a bit more confidence. Even the chance of someone actually returning something like this is quite low. Not so much with clothes, but things like electronics. So some stuff, for things like clothes, then that's people return those for fun all the time. But stuff like electronics, people tend to be, especially like this where it's broken. I'm selling a broken thing. They could return it, but it's like they're buying it because because they're going to fix it. So they're actually, I know they're getting a good deal, so they don't really, the chances of them actually returning it are pretty slim. So yeah, I would put basically postage and returns. If I'm going to bold those up, just so they stick out a bit more. Again, looks professional, draws people's eye to it, so they can see, yeah, this is what I'm getting. This guy knows what he's doing. And then we come down here. Okay, so now the pricing. Sometimes for me this defaults to buy it now. So if it says buy it now, then just click on auction. If it already says auction for you, then that's great. And then what you'll get is some boxes to fill out later on. The standard duration is 7 days, and for most people it's free. I think if you're a private seller, then I think it's your first 100 listings a month are usually free. If you do 7 days, if you change the duration, you might be charged like 15p, 35p, something like that. There's there'll be a small charge. So I usually use either 7 days or 1 day. 7 days is great just for something you know, if you're not in a hurry, you just want to get rid of something. I would tend to start an auction on a Sunday evening, and then it'll finish the following Sunday, and it'll have which means people tend to get more eyeballs in the last day or two, and particularly in the last hour. Excuse me. So it's important to actually start your listing at the right time. So it's currently Sunday afternoon, so this thing, I'm not in a massive hurry to get the money. If I was in a hurry, I would click 1 day. And I do use that quite a lot, and it's a really good tool. If you are in a hurry for the money but you've never sold anything on eBay, it's worth knowing that you might not get the money from your first sale for up to 3 weeks. Whereas for me, I get my money usually within 2 days of the person paying. So it's just something to bear in mind. So select your duration. 10 days can be a good one because you can actually get 2 weekends worth of people viewing it. But personally, I recommend either 7 days or 1 day. The only time I ever use 3 and 5 days is when, say, if I'm starting something on a Thursday and I want it to finish on a Sunday night, for instance, you know, finish it over a weekend, then that's when I would use those. So yeah, so we'll put it on. We'll keep it at 7 days, and the starting bid. So for this, okay, I could probably get. I'll be expecting sort of £10-15 for this. If I put it on at 99p, you know you're going to get more interest in it. It's a lot more attractive to people. So it might stay at 99p for literally until the last hour, but that you'll find you'll get a lot of views and you get a lot of watches as well. So that's often a good thing to do, especially if you're not too fussed about the price you get for it. This option, the buy it now, is a newer feature. You need to be careful with this because this buy it now price. Say if I think, well, if someone wants a quick sale, you know, I'd want £25 for it, for instance. This feature will actually disappear as soon as someone bids on here. So it's no good putting 90. If you like, I know someone who was selling some garden furniture, and what they did was they knew that garden furniture cost them hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and they wanted like £300 for it. So they came along and they put 300 in there, and then they put 99p in here. So what happened was someone came along within, you know, on the first day of the auction and bid 99p for this item because it was a collection only. It was garden furniture. There was only a limited number of people who were ever going to bid on it. It had to be people who lived in that particular area with a big enough car to fit, you know, some garden chairs in it. And so this 300 just disappeared then. So this is only valid until someone makes a bid, unless you're clicking. If you do buy it now, then that's different. You know, 300 is the price, and people can make you offers. But if it's an auction, this price will disappear the second that someone makes a bid. So you have to be careful, because what happened was that auction in the end, a few people did bid on it, but it went for about £10, and the person who sold it then had to apologise to the buyer, because the buyer paid straight away. They thought they got the deal of the century because they got, you know, something that had even a second-hand resale value of £300, and they got it for £10. So and that person had to message the buyer and say, look, I'm sorry, but I've made a mistake. I'm new at eBay and you're not having them. So yeah, do be careful. So if you another thing you could do is get rid of. I generally don't use this for auctions. It also costs you more in fees as well. So whereas if you put a bigger price in here, you'll be charged a fee. So if we come down here at the moment, displayed fees, it should be free. I'm a business seller, so I get so many free as well. If I put £15 in there, chances are there would be a fee. So it's just something to be aware of. Usually, if I know something's got a certain value, like say £15, I'll just put it on a 1 day, see if someone buys it. I wouldn't bother waiting a week. But for a week, we'll do 99p. Reserve prices. I don't think I've ever used one in anger, honestly. Reserve prices cost you quite a lot in fees. There's quite a big percentage. I can't remember if it's a fixed fee or percentage, but it's what's the fees on a reserve? Okay, it doesn't tell you what it is. Yeah, I generally don't use reserve prices. I don't, and you know, if you've got a reserve price in mind, just start your bid at that price. If you think something's worth £100, don't put it on for 99p. You know, put it and don't use a reserve price because you get charged a big fee for it. Just put the price in here that you want. So I would definitely avoid reserve prices. And the fact they're also annoying for buyers because you can't see what the reserve price is. You can only see whether it's been met or not. So often if I see something and it says, "Oh, reserve not met," I don't even bother. I just go to another. I find something different. Offers. So if we come a bit further down, allowing offers, you can do. It's similar to this buy it now thing in that it only applies until the first bid is placed. So again, if you use it with a 99p auction, you're going to find that it disappears pretty quickly. What you might find is if you start something, say if I think if I think this thing's like worth say £20, so I could start my bidding at £9.99, and then you could put a buy it now in, or you could say I accept a minimum offer. You don't have to fill this in. You can just put that people can make you offers. So depending on what you're selling, you find that you will get a lot of people messaging you saying, I'll give you money for this right now. You know, if you end the listing, sell it to me. You get that a lot with phones, with iPhones. I had a lot of people last time I sold a phone. I didn't put any of these offers or anything like that. I just wanted to let it run. But I had a lot of people messaging me saying, I'll give you £50 for it right now. Just end the listing and we'll do a deal. So that's pretty much most of those. Scheduling your listing. So if you're an early bird and you decide to do this in the morning before you go to work or something like that, don't, for the love of God, do not set your listing at 10 in the morning or at 3 in the morning. Do it. Make sure your listing finishes in the evening, and your listing will finish exactly the number of days that you've set here after you set it off. So if you set a listing off at 3 in the afternoon, then the only people that are going to see it are people who are at home in the day, or people who work from home, or kids on the bus on the way home from school, something like that. If you make something end at 6, okay, a lot more people should see it, but you might get commuters on the train or the bus seeing it, but a lot of people aren't really home at 6. So it's kind of, you might have more luck if maybe they're home but they're eating the dinner or they're getting things ready. So I tend to make mine finish at like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Latest I would usually go is 10. But just think about who's going to be buying this. Because if you put stuff and it finishes in the morning, there's only unless it's in the school holidays. Which aren't a great time to sell things anyway, then, because people go out and do stuff. Then, So let's say you got up early in the morning. So let's pretend it's 10 in the morning today. I could just change this and I'd say, right, I want it to start at 7 p.m. tonight. That's a sensible thing to do. Okay, so we won't talk too much more about that. I think we've done that to death. So next we'll come on to postage. As an alternative to scheduling your listing, it might be worth, if you come all the way down to the bottom, you can click save for later. So if you know that you'll be at home and on your computer at say 9 o'clock in the evening, then that can be a cheap alternative, because this will cost you money. This costs, I think it's about 15p, so it's not a lot of money, and I would say in most cases you will make a lot more money by ending your listing at the right time than you will having it end at sort of anti-social hours. because the vast majority of the bids always happen in the last couple of hours, and often the last, like, literally the last seconds. If it's a popular item, you tend, and it ends at a sensible time, then you tend to get, you might get quite a lot of bids in the last few minutes. Quite often when I bid on things, I wait literally 5 seconds before it finishes, and then I bid. Which can be risky, but if your item finishes at 3 in the morning, then there's not going to be many people bidding on it. So just use a bit of common sense, and if you are making your listings at an unsociable hour, either schedule them or save them for later. Okay, postage. So your postage options might look a bit different to this, because I'm a business seller, so mine look a bit strange. But what you should see is, if you come to, when you're a business seller, it does the most policies, which are really annoying, and I hope they change it soon, because what it used to be was just a nice and simple. This is the sort of thing that you should see, except on the main page. So domestic postage, flat same cost to all buyers. In the UK, this is the sensible option, unless you're selling something that's big and heavy, in which case you do local collection only. If you are selling something that's collection only, I would put it in big letters, bold letters, at the very top of your description, and again at the bottom, to make sure. I mean, you will still get bidders from the other end of your country, from hundreds of miles away, but it's just something to do. People don't always pay attention. So flat, same cost to all buyers. So before you do all this, it is worth checking what your postage options are. I did cover this in a different video. I think it was the second video, so it's worth checking that out. I'll put a card up here, maybe. For me, flat, same cost to all buyers is the one that makes sense. If you live in a big country, or if you live in a country where the postage changes depending on how far you send things, so like for instance, in America, I think it costs, if you live on the eastern seaboard and you're sending something to the west coast, that's probably more expensive than it is sending it just down the coast to a different part of the eastern seaboard. So in that case, then you may want to use rate tables, or go on and you could go and get a worst case. So you could do flat, same cost to all buyers, but then go on whichever your sort of favourite postal service is, and find out how much it costs to send it to the worst case, to send it to the other side of the country. So it's a good idea to pick the service, spend a bit of time, because they're done into, so you've got expedited, economy, all that kind of stuff. So just find the right one. For auctions, I tend to use, particularly if it's 99p, I put the lowest price I can, and then I work out what the postage is, and I put it in. For most of my buy it now listings, I use free postage and packaging. So if you're starting your listing at £100 or something, if you're selling something quite expensive, then I usually just stick free P&P in. It just looks more attractive, and it's more attractive to buyers. So yeah, and you can always just price your item £5 higher, whatever. All I would say with postage, the only other thing, because I have covered this in another video, but just make sure you choose a service that's got tracking and or insurance that's about right for the value of your item. So for instance, for this item, it's worth between £20 and £40, the thing that I'm selling, depending on how well it works. Then I'm going to send that by a tracked service. Anything above £20, usually that's my cut-off for when I send something by a tracked service. So if I was selling something for 99p and it sold for £10, then I probably wouldn't use a tracked service, just because a tracked service for me will cost a minimum of like £2.85, £3, something like that. So for a £20 item, yes, that's worth it, but for a £10 item, probably not. Equally, if you're selling an iPhone, we've covered it in other videos, but in the UK, the sort of standard tracked service only covers you up to about £100, so you have to go for like a special delivery, which is a lot more expensive, which covers you up to 2,000, I think. So yeah, just some things to think about, so make sure you pick the right one. When it comes to international postage, Depending on where you live, you might have this option, which is the eBay global shipping program. This is great. This is really good, and all it is you literally just send it to a warehouse. I send this to a warehouse up in some part of the UK, and it's near an airport, and they take care of the rest. They send the parcels on. I don't know how much this costs, but it's sending things internationally can be a bit of a pain, particularly in the UK now. We've had Brexit that just makes everything twice as difficult, especially for sending things into Europe anyway. Before, sending things to Europe was easy. Now it's a nightmare. So this is great. If what in the past when I've used international postage options, what I do is I do flat same cost to all buyers. If you're sending something internationally, assume it is going to go missing. If you've got this option to use the GSP, the global shipping program, just use it and don't bother with this at all. But if you are going to do it, you can set up rate tables. If you're going to be like an eBay business seller, you can set up international rate tables and things like that, but generally speaking, I wouldn't bother. I'd let eBay do it all. I don't sell that much stuff abroad, honestly, anymore. I used to do when I was selling coins, but now I'm selling Pokemon. People don't tend to bother. And then that's pretty much it for the auction. So just make sure you finish it at the right time of day. You can preview your listing. That's the only thing I would say is before you do anything, is click preview. Just make sure it looks how you're expecting it to look. So come down here. See, we've got a nice bold title. Postage is bold. Okay, that's a bit tiny, but it doesn't really matter. But this looks how I'm expecting it to look. So I'm not actually going to list this, but I would click on list with displayed fees, and then you're away. Job's a good one. If you found this useful, please leave me a like and hit subscribe. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how you make a buy it now listing. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.